The founder of modern philosophy, René Descartes, famously said, "I think, therefore I am." I think that what he really should have said was, "I'm experiencing, therefore I am." The only thing we cannot doubt is that we have this conscious experience right now. We can't be sure that other people or animals are conscious, though it seems very reasonable to assume that they are. We can't even be sure that we're not a brain isolated in a tank being fed inputs that mimic there being a world out there such that we're hallucinating our experience, like in the movie The Matrix. But even if we are hallucinating the world, we can be sure that we are experiencing whatever it is that we're experiencing right now. In fact, the present content of our conscious experience is the only thing that we can truly know for sure. What I find ironic about this situation is that many scientists deny that consciousness is real, or at least really causal in this universe. Although our conscious experience is the only thing we have access to and can report, we create scientific theories based on our conscious observations, and often these theories then try to explain consciousness away as an illusion or as non-causal. I think this is a big mistake. For anyone who denies the causal power of consciousness to affect subsequent events in the universe, I present the following simple challenge. Describe to me what you're right now consciously experiencing. You might say, well, my left toe hurts and my nose itches. When you describe your conscious experience, you'll be moving atoms in the air or in your jaw, this way or that, which would have moved in different ways had you described different contents of your consciousness. Under what conceivable model of the world can consciousness play no role in an act of describing what you're conscious of? So it seems utterly obvious and undeniable both that we have subjective experience and that it's causal in the universe, at least when we talk about it or act based upon its contents. Our task in science is to figure out exactly how it is realized in the brain and how it can be causal. But what is consciousness exactly? Consciousness, to a first approximation, is the set of everything that we are now subjectively experiencing. Since we are humans and can talk, this includes the set of experiences that we can talk about and describe. So for humans, a rough stand-in for determining whether something is conscious or not is whether we can describe what it is like for us to have such and such an experience. But reportability is not really a very good characterization of consciousness because there are surely other animals that are conscious who can't speak. A better definition of consciousness links the idea of consciousness to the ideas of volition and attention. On this view, consciousness is a domain or space of operands or representations that volitional operators can operate on. The most important volitional operator or executive process is likely volitional attention. On this view, consciousness includes everything that you are now volitionally attending and everything that you might attend in the next moment. Many wonderful experiments have been done in the past few decades showing the close link between what we attend to and what we are conscious of. There's a famous video of basketball players passing a ball while a gorilla walks on stage. The task is to count the number of ball passes that are made by the white team. In the middle of this, a black gorilla walks across the stage. The amazing thing is that a majority of subjects who view this film for the first time report not having seen the gorilla, even if they had been looking right at it. So let's try this experiment ourselves. Count the number of ball passes made by the white team in this more recent version of the gorilla experiment made by the psychologist Dan Simons. Since you were expecting to see the gorilla, you probably saw it. But if you had not seen this video before, you might not have noticed that the curtains changed color and that one person walked off the stage. You can prove this to yourself by rewinding this video and then paying attention to the curtain and keeping your eye out for someone leaving the stage. If you missed it before, you'll catch these changes this second time. Now let's watch a second video about a murder.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
But how did you know?
Madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
Sorry, madam.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
And action.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
Did you notice all the changes? If not, what are we to make of this? The first time I watched this, I didn't notice that there was a new dead man lying on the floor. I assumed that it was the same dead man as before, even though he was wearing different clothes and had a different face. How can this be? Was I not conscious of the first man? Or was I not conscious of the differences between the first man and the second man? Normally, if something changes in the world, there's a motion signal at the location of the change. The motion signal indicates to our visual system that something has changed there and where we should pay attention to. But if we get rid of this motion signal, we will generally not be made aware that a change has taken place. In order to notice a change in the absence of a motion signal indicating the presence of a change, we have to pay attention to a location or a thing for a relatively long time and then compare it with our memories of its previous states. Only then, if there's a mismatch between the way it is now and our memory of it, can we realize that there's been a change. Now look at this example, also by Dan Simons. Here a man is giving directions. When the door comes through, the men switch positions. The man continues giving directions because he does not notice that there's a new person right there in front of him. They've done experiments like this all around the world, and people don't notice that there's been a dramatic change as long as they were not paying attention and as long as a person has not switched category of sex, race, or age. What does this mean? I think it means that most of us, most of the time, are operating on zombie-like scripts when we're not paying attention. We walk through the world and say, bench, old man, tree, and so on without noticing the particularities of that individual bench, person, or tree. But children are not like this. They might say, Mom, look at this tree. It has white bark. Mom, look at this caterpillar. It has red eyes. And the mother says, Stop talking so much, Jimmy. Can't you see I'm busy? And over time, Jimmy loses his childlike enthusiasm and attentiveness and becomes ever more an inattentive zombie and no longer notices the intricacies of the bark or of the caterpillar's eyes. He becomes less conscious of his world because he becomes less attentive. Without attention, we might not notice that there's a gorilla right in front of us. Does this mean that we experience nothing at all at the location of the gorilla? No, it might mean that we saw black features moving about at that location, but we did not experience nothing. If that's the case, without attention, we experience something like feature soup. But with attention, we experience a gorilla because attention can function like a feature glue that glues features together into objects and events. Moreover, without attention, we can still operate in the world based upon automatized scripts, but we miss a lot. We pay a heavy price for operating in zombie mode. For example, we might not notice that a new person has replaced the person we were just talking to, or we might not notice that one corpse has been replaced with another. Why do we become automatized as we grow up? Well, Automatization allows us to save energy. We can act on autopilot, freeing up mental resources for other tasks. For example, when we drive, at first we have to pay attention to every little thing. It's exhausting, but as we become a better driver, we can drive on automatic pilot, so to speak. We can pay attention instead of to the road, to our inner thoughts and daydreams. But notice, our zombie scripts cannot handle the unexpected, and they can't handle something very novel. Let's say that a clown suddenly starts skipping across the highway. We have no unconscious script to handle the situation automatically, so our daydreams are interrupted and we're forced to pay attention to the clown. This is a good thing because entering conscious mode, we can consider many options. We might slow down or swerve around the clown, or we might honk, or we might even consider opening the window and yelling at the clown, "Get out of the road!" Conscious mode is slow in comparison to automatized scripts for thinking or behaving, but consciousness is flexible and open-ended. It allows us to weigh our various options and play events out before doing them. It allows us to try things out in a way before actually doing them. As the philosopher Karl Popper put it, rather poetically, consciousness evolved so that our hypotheses could die in our stead. Now, as I've been talking, did you notice that the wall behind the woman changed very slowly from large cinder blocks to small bricks? Rewind to the beginning of the appearance of this image that has been behind me. Well, it's actually not an image at all, but a movie where the changes were so slow that they came in under the radar, so to speak, of your motion detecting system. But notice also, if you had been a stonemason, you might have encoded this image in a deeper way, and then notice that the image had gone from a woman in a workroom in front of cinder blocks to one of a woman in a workroom in front of bricks. But since you're probably not a stonemason, you probably just encoded it as a woman in a workroom. And in that case, at the level of that proposition, the image never changed its meaning. So you were not alerted to the enormous change, either by your low-level motion detecting system or your high-level meaning detecting systems. In conclusion, consciousness is that set of highly pre-processed mental representations that either are now being volitionally attended or could be so attended in the next moment. Volitional attention can't get under the hood, so to speak, and be allocated to earlier representations, say those present at the retina. Rather, unconscious and pre-conscious processes operate on the input, and after they're done with their rapid operations, volitional attention can then further process a subset even more deeply. For example, we can track something as it moves around the world with our attention, even if we're not directly looking at it. In sum, consciousness is the set of all operands that can be or are being processed by the mental operator that we call volitional attention. We can therefore see that there are three concepts that are deeply connected: volition, or free will, attention, and consciousness.